Horizon Airways Concourse C at London Heathrow hummed with the familiar symphony of travel, rolling cases, purposeful strides, and hushed phone calls. At Gate 22, excitement built for Flight 712 to New York, Atlantic Dawn, the airline's premier executive class service. Inside the lavish premier cabin, vintage champagne flowed, and bespoke jackets were carefully hung by attentive staff. In seat 3A sat Eleanor Harding, an embodiment of generational wealth and established London prestige. Her impeccably tailored cream linen suit gleamed under the cabin lights, and beside her, sprawling across seat 3B, was her crimson crocodile handbag. She didn't spare a second glance for the item monopolizing an entire seat. In her view, it rightfully belonged there. From the jet bridge, a tall, self-assured man in a custom navy suit entered, a single leather attaché case in hand. This was Julian Thorne, CEO of OmniGlobal Enterprises, a figure who avoided public fanfare but whose name commanded respect in boardrooms globally. Few realized OmniGlobal owned the very airline they were traveling on. Julian paused at row 3. His boarding pass clearly read seat 3B. Eleanor looked up, lowering her designer sunglasses slightly. Her polite smile tightened as her gaze settled on him. "I believe that's my seat," Julian stated calmly, indicating 3B. But Eleanor didn't waver. Her hand rested possessively on the handbag. "This seat's occupied," she stated coolly. "Perhaps check with the attendant." Julian subtly lifted his pass. "Julian Thorne, 3B." A soft, dismissive chuckle escaped Eleanor. "I'm sure they can find you accommodations elsewhere. Economy plus, perhaps." Around them, a few passengers glanced up, tension settling like a heavy fog. A flight attendant, Liam, approached. "Is there a problem?" "Yes." Eleanor snapped before Julian could respond. "This man is demanding a seat already in use. I feel threatened." That word landed like a thunderclap. Liam hesitated, caught between airline protocol and inherent bias. Julian handed him the pass. Liam's eyes widened as he read it. "Thank you, Mr. Thorne," he said, voice hushed with recognition. But Eleanor leaned back, her voice rising. "He's harassing me. I want him removed from this flight." Phones were now out, recording. A financier in 2C shook his head, capturing the scene. "I am simply standing beside my assigned seat," Julian stated, his voice even, eyes fixed. "Sir," Liam said, clearly uncomfortable, "could you step into the jet bridge for a moment while we resolve this?" Julian paused. The request was polite, but its underlying message was unmistakable. "Please remove yourself so we can appease her." Julian nodded, stepping back into the jet bridge. Behind him, Eleanor exhaled triumphantly. Once alone, Julian took out his phone and made a call. "This is Thorne," he said. "Initiate shadow protocol." Miles away, in OmniGlobal's operations center, Dr. Serafina IO received the alert. "Engaging now," her lead engineer confirmed. Back in the cabin, Liam informed Eleanor that Mr. Thorne's seat assignment was indeed valid. Eleanor scoffed, muttering something about standards. The air grew thick with unspoken animosity. Julian stood by the window in the jet bridge, watching aircraft move across the tarmac. His expression remained unyielding. He knew this scenario all too well, the weaponization of perceived vulnerability, the subtle bigotry veiled by affluence and designer accessories. Inside the OmniGlobal systems, shadow protocol moved with swift efficiency. Passenger manifests were cross-referenced, personnel flagged, internal communications scanned. A discreet alert pinged the airline's CEO, who paled upon seeing the initiating ID, Julian Thorne. Within minutes, the jet bridge door reopened. 2 uniformed Horizon Airways executives stepped inside, eyes wide with urgency. "Mr. Thorne, our deepest apologies." Julian raised a hand, silencing them. "Do not address me with apologies intended to conceal systemic deficiencies. Observe, document, respond appropriately." "Yes, sir." Inside the cabin, whispers escalated into speculation. Eleanor sat smugly, sunglasses back on, bag unmoved. She didn't notice the recording devices still active. Julian re-entered the aircraft. He didn't speak to Eleanor. He simply looked at Liam. "Has the seat been cleared?" Liam nodded quickly. "Yes, sir. We're truly sorry." Julian settled into 3B, adjusting his cufflinks with precise movements. Eleanor blinked, suddenly uncertain. He turned slightly. "You'll want to remember this moment." She frowned. "Excuse me?" But Julian didn't answer. Back at OmniGlobal HQ, Serafina activated the final phase. Internal reviews, employee conduct logs, and training compliance records were now under live audit. A single email from Julian could halt Horizon Airways' global operations entirely. And then, just as the doors prepared to close, another message arrived on Serafina's console: hold clearance for Flight 712. She stared. Julian hadn't grounded the flight, not yet. On board, Julian leaned back. He didn't need to raise his voice or demand respect. His influence wasn't in volume, it was in decisions that reshaped corporations, careers, and reputations. Beside him, Eleanor shifted uncomfortably, her smirk had vanished. Then the captain's voice resonated over the speaker: ladies and gentlemen, we've been asked to delay pushback for a brief operational review. Phones buzzed, passengers murmured. Eleanor sat up, alarm blooming in her eyes. Julian simply closed his eyes, his expression unreadable. Outside, engines quieted. The situation was far from concluded. Full spectrum observation mode, Serafina commanded. Monitor everything. No disruptions yet. Her fingers flew across the secure keyboard, eyes locked on Flight 712's real-time profile. Under Julian Thorne, a flag protocol flashed: shadow. This was no routine passenger dispute, it was a direct challenge to systemic prejudice. Inside the aircraft, Marcus, the purser, approached Eleanor. We're verifying the seating arrangement. Please be patient. Eleanor smiled thinly, then raised her voice for the benefit of nearby passengers. Of course. It's just so unfortunate these issues arise. Makes one question who really belongs in first class. The subtle bigotry was not lost. Whispers rippled through the cabin. In the jet bridge, Julian read a message from Serafina: observation complete. Phase 2 ready. A quiet smile played on his lips. The reckoning had begun. Minutes later, Liam approached. Mr. Thorne, we're ready to resume boarding. Julian nodded and re-entered the cabin. All eyes followed him. Eleanor sat stiffly as he reached his assigned seat, 3B, still occupied by her designer bag. Julian said calmly, I'll take my seat now. Eleanor removed her sunglasses, her eyes cold and condescending. I told you, this seat is taken. You've caused enough trouble already. Her hand protectively tapped her bag. Marcus stepped in. Mr. Thorne has a valid pass for this seat. There's nothing to resolve. He's making a scene, and I feel threatened. Eleanor snapped. Phones began recording. Julian remained composed. I've done nothing but try to take my seat. The captain appeared, alerted by the escalating tension. A gate agent whispered urgently to him. Meanwhile, a passenger stood from the back. For the record, he said, holding up his phone, Mr. Thorne has been professional the entire time. The mood shifted. Murmurs of agreement followed. The captain, sensing the change, exhaled. Mr. Thorne, he said, can I ask you to temporarily step off while we sort this? Julian looked into his eyes, noting the resignation behind the request, and nodded. Eleanor smirked as Julian retrieved his briefcase. Phones caught her smug expression. In the jet bridge, Julian made the call: Phase 2, full execution. Confirm with Serafina. Confirmed, came a reply. At OmniGlobal's HQ, Serafina initiated the sequence. Internal surveillance swept for discriminatory flags. Flight operations across New York, London, and Tokyo faltered. Engineers noticed the global lag. This isn't local, one said, alarmed. Back on Flight 712, Eleanor fumed. Why are we still waiting? She barked at Liam. Julian's phone buzzed, latency confirmed. Boarding halted at 8 hubs. Media monitoring active. The captain addressed the cabin again. We're experiencing unforeseen delays. Groans erupted. A nearby passenger muttered, maybe if someone hadn't started all this. Eleanor's control cracked. You think I'm to blame? Then came the final blow. Due to an operational directive from corporate, the captain announced, all crew must temporarily disembark. Gasps. Confusion. What? Eleanor shrieked. They've abandoned us. Crew filed out. Passengers streamed it live. Flight 712 grounded. Repercussions. First class begat. Security entered. You need to disembark, Marcus said. This is retaliation. I'll sue. Eleanor screamed as she was escorted out. Her eyes locked with Julian's. Realization struck, he had orchestrated all of it. Julian simply inclined his head. Not revenge, just accountability. At OmniGlobal's boardroom, chaos reigned. Horizon Airways CEO, Arthur Davies, stood pale. "The vote is clear," said Victoria Hayes, board chairman. "Your resignation is accepted." Julian Thorne authorized shadow protocol. The board supports him. News flashed globally, Horizon Airways CEO resigns amid discrimination scandal. At the gate, VP Derek Chen approached Julian. Davies' resignation is official. Crew suspended. Eleanor Harding is permanently banned across Omni Global Airlines. No public statement, Julian said. Understood. His phone buzzed, board vote unanimous. Transfer of authority complete. Julian exhaled, calm, resolved. He walked away from the grounded flight. No fanfare, no anger. Just truth and power. Flight 712 sat idle now, a symbol of